May 8th, 2019, 12:30 workshop. We have a couple things on the agenda. First up is the employee health care plan, and we're going to discuss the fiscal year 2020 budget. We had some questions. I think the board in general, we wanted to understand our policy a little bit better. Oh, we have a presentation. Who's presenting? Or am I presenting? All right. Come on down, or stand up and hit the buttons, however you want to do it. We actually have the chart here in front of us. And Kathy, I think what we wanted to do, and quite frankly, probably more for Mike to educate me more so than anybody, and I've always felt that one thing that I've lacked in, I think I understand the town's infrastructure very well. I understand all of our departments pretty well, but when it always came to healthcare, I really didn't understand our healthcare program. And I know it's always every year we start talking about whether there's going to be an increase. Well, not if there's going to be an increase, it's normally how much of an increase healthcare is going to be. So I just want to, I want to understand what type of policy we have, what type of course, what kind of type of plan it is. We wanted to understand how much the employee contributes to our plan. I believe I have those answers now, but I think it's going to be in your presentation, so that would be great. Okay. Does the board have any other specific questions that I covered, or when she starts? Okay, fire away.
So hopefully this will be an education session, and I started off my career in benefits. I was a benefits manager from 84 to 90 for self-insured plans, and then later on as HR managers I've been handling insured plans. So I have a broad knowledge of different kinds of health insurance. So hopefully I can answer your questions. Okay, so first we're going to talk about our group insurance renewal plan and kind of the nuts and bolts of it. Okay. Every year our plans renew annually effective July 1. And so the planning for that starts at least 90 days prior, and actually the insurance, and that's about when we'll get our renewal rate. And actually the insurance companies are pulling large claim data the month before that. So that's like February is when they're starting to gather the data so we can get this stuff, you know, by, what do we see, July? Yeah, in March. So March is when they're pulling the data so we can get it sometime in April. And we coordinate the renewal negotiations through our broker, which is USI. We've been with them for quite a few years now.
Okay.
So medical insurance trend, of course, healthcare has been going up and up and up every year. And employers have been looking for better ways to come up with alternatives to have more cost-effective means of offering health insurance. But it's still a critical part of the employee compensation package. So it's very important to the town employees. And the average 2019 rate increase for employer-sponsored medical plans is 5% for 2019. And this is the 6th year in a row that it has been 5% or more. So it's, and that's even with employers going to more cost-effective plan designs. So the current carriers that we have right now through this June 30th is Aetna for medical, and we have two options: an HMO plan, which is called the Health Network Only, and the Point of Service plan. The HMO, you can only go to the network of doctors. If you go out of network, you don't have coverage for the service. So it's only the network of doctors. Aetna has a strong network of doctors in this area, which is one of the reasons why employees have been so satisfied, is because their doctors are usually in the network. So that's a critical part when you're selecting a plan. And the point of service plan, you can either go in-network, which is the same network of doctors as the HMO, or you can go out of network, and that's where you'd have a deductible to pay, and then co-insurance. Dental, we also have Aetna, and actually the town has been with Aetna. This is the 10th renewal. So we have a pretty solid relationship with them. They work with us in bad years and because of the long relationship that we've had. And vision, we have Emeritus, which is 2 different options, VSP and IMED. And then life and disability is with the Standard. We've been with them for quite a few years as well. This is our 6th renewal.
How do you want to define the standard insurance that the town pays for as a long-term?
That is both all the life insurances, there's company-paid life insurance, and then there's a whole host of additional life insurances that people can purchase. And then there's disability insurance, both short-term disability, which covers the first 90 days of an employee's non-work-related medical absence, or long-term disability, which if you've been out more than 90 days, then it rolls over to long-term disability.
Now, is there any permanent disability plans, or help me understand this?
Well, long-term disability is the thing that...
Are we killing you with that light?
No, sorry.
Okay.
So long-term disability doesn't mean that you are going to be disabled indefinitely. You can, but sometimes it may be just someone has had a complicated pregnancy, let's say, and they're going to be out maybe most of the 9 months because of some complications. So that's where it would go into long-term disability, but then after they have the baby, get released, then they come back to work. And so, they're not permanently disabled. But there are people who go out of work and can never return again, and that's where long-term would continue to age. I think it's 60, if you're disabled before age 60, it goes to age 60 or 65. No, 65. If you're disabled after age 60, then it's schedule of how long you get coverage for. But generally, they want to take you to, Medicare age.
With your life insurance, once an employee ceases to work, what options do they have available, or what do they take with them in reference to life insurance?
Okay, so let's talk about the disability aspect first. So if someone becomes disabled indefinitely, then there is also a free continuation of life insurance that they may qualify for if they're under age 60. It's called a premium waiver. If you're over age 60, then, or if you're not permanently disabled, then you can continue coverage either through premium conversion, and that's where, that's the policy. It's going to be more expensive. It's an individual policy. It's more expensive because the insurance company can't turn you down. You're guaranteed, and those are the people with health insurance problems, or that haven't been insured with the town long enough. And then there's portability. And portability is for that employee who doesn't have any health issues, that's leaving and wants to take life insurance with them. And those rates are going to be, higher than the group rates that we pay, but they're not going to, but they're still going to be better, and also they're guaranteed to be able to get the coverage, as long as you apply within the 30-day time frame.
That's good.
Okay. So now medical and dental insurance rate change is effective July 1st. So we did get Aetna's first round of medical renewal rates, and they came in with a 9% rate increase for our current plans. They know that we always negotiate with them, so they gave us also an alternate medical plan proposal, and that proposal would result in a 4.21% increase. That proposal did include a change in the plan design. So with the HMO plan currently, we have a $250 deductible individual or $500 family for some expenses. It's not your routine doctor visits, it's not your specialist visits, it's not your prescriptions, it's not your x-rays, it's only those high-ticket items, inpatient hospitalizations, expensive testing like MRIs, outpatient facility charges. But a lot of the services are not subject to a deductible. So that deductible, it can be misleading, but this is a good plan. It does not apply to everything. So people can get their normal health care things taken care of without worrying about a deductible.
So let me ask you something. So when one of our employees goes to a family doctor visit, they don't have to pay the first X amount of dollars. They're just paying for the office visit?
Right.
So is there a charge that they have to pay for the office?
Yeah, yeah, there is.
$20?
$20.
$20
for a specialist.
And that's with the HMO plan.
Network.
$20, right, $20 for primary care, $40 for a specialist.
Mm-hmm.
What's the
The POS is 15 for a specialist.
and 10.
10 for PCP.
Would we happen to know the percentage of residents that have had to pay any type of deductible?
We HR wouldn't get that.
You wouldn't have that information.
I know, we know there's been some employees,
Okay.
because we do have some large claim data, and those people would have fallen into that category.
I guess where I was getting at with this, and once again, I'm not very sharp when it comes to this, but if we raise asked our Aetna to raise those deductibles, let's say to $5,000, would it bring our rate down considerably? And then the town would pay that $5,000 up to the $5,000 for the employee?
Now, you're talking about a high deductible plan, which some employers have gone to, or have offered alongside their current plan, and we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
That is another slide that we're gonna get into, how
Very
that
good.
works.
All right.
Okay, so the alternate plan design has some increased deductibles for the two options that we offer. Aetna's initial dental renewal rate came in at 3.9% initially, and both HR and USI went back to Aetna to ask for concessions.
Very good.
And so they did come back to us with the concessions, a 4% decrease in the renewal rate for our current medical plan, so it went from 9% to 5%. So that's right about what the average industry,
The current
for the
medical,
current medical plans, that we have the HMO and the point of service plans with that.
for both.
Yeah. And actually, they price it so that I think the one plan has a little bit higher increase. I think it's our point of service. I think the increase was a little bit higher on that than the HMO plan where most people are, but it averages out to 5% between both options that we offer.
Okay.
And then for alternate, and that's something too where we do have some flexibility. Last year, they came back with an increase like that, and we got them to make it flat across the board for both plans, so that one plan wasn't incurring a higher cost than the other. And then for alternate medical plan designs, they reduced the rate instead of 4.21% for those increased deductible plans down to 0. So we would have a flat renewal. We have the option to have a flat renewal.
The alternate medical plans that we haven't seen yet, is that?
No, that's the ones where, currently we have a $250 deductible for the HMO plan.
Right.
Well, they said, well, if we increase that deductible to $500, then we'll give you a 4.21% increase. Now they said, okay, if you increase that deductible to $500, it'll be no increase. So if we offer this similar plans as we have, but with a little bit higher deductible, they'll give us no increase.
Got it.
And then the dental rate came down to 3% from 3.9%. And then, as I said, we do have a history with Aetna, and we do have some bargaining power with them. So for 2019, we talked about, they have come down 4% rate concessions. For 2018, same thing, they came in with 4%. We got it down to 0% with negotiations. 2017, they came in with 18.1%. That's because we had, I think, the prior year, some significant claims that had carryover significant claims into the following year. So they wanted to try to recoup some of that. And that's the year that there was no way we could get it to under a double-digit increase. So we made some considerable plan designs, which are the plan designs that we have today. And we were able to get it down to an overall 1.14% increase. And people have been happy with the plan designs that we put in place. In 2016, it was 6.65, and in 2015, they came down from 11.1 to 9%. And here's just a visual to see, where the initial increases can fall and how we can come in with much lower final rates. So anyway, after, I guess, the last week's meeting, HR was requested to get some competitive medical and dental quotes. And often, in the past several years, we have done that in order to get the significant bargaining power that we did. This year, for negotiations, they wanted to know what would it take for you to not market the plans, and, you know, they didn't come in quite that low. So we have gone up to market as we have before, and Cigna, United Healthcare, and Care First are the three insurance companies that are going to give us quotes. Sometimes, and for both medical and dental, and the reason is because sometimes when you bundle the two together, you can get better rates than if you had one company handling medical and one handling dental. Alternate quotes should be available by early the week of May 27th, and sometimes carriers decide to decline the quote, just because, you know, they might not be interested in the average age of our employees or the risk that, you know, we might pose, or they, you know, just even the industry, you know, they may not want the public employer industry. Other town group insurance renewal rates, we have not gotten Ameritas Vision yet, and the standard for life and disability, they have made no change.
I would like to state that County Executive Alan McCarthy has reached out to me on several occasions and asked if the town would like to see if the county could help us with our health care costs. They're a self-funded program, and I think a couple of the other municipalities around the county has joined in with the county. But I would recommend maybe we make a call and see if there's any significant advantage for us to maybe partner up with the county when it comes to healthcare. At least take a look at it.
What about
Legit, the local government and investment trust who handles, or who had handled a lot of the town municipal money over the years, is now in the insurance business also. And it may be one that we might want to reach out to also, and that's a great point, Gene. I was at the Maryland Municipal League meeting about 2 weeks ago, and they stated that they got back a pretty substantial rebate back from the previous year. But I don't know how much they're paying, I don't know any of that, but I think that those are just another source that maybe we might want to take a look at.
Now, is the county are they participating with the Legit
I don't believe so.
consortium?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I couldn't, I can forward to you, there's a one-page, literally a one-page questionnaire that the county needed. I think it's basically said how many employees, and then they would be able to give us some numbers.
Okay, and that's probably self-insurance along with the Legit, and I do know some about the Legit Benetcon plan, so I will talk about that when I get to the self-insurance.
Thank you.
Which is, right around the corner.
Rob, have we ever partnered with the county before on health plans?
We never have, that I'm aware of. I don't think we ever have.
My 28 years.
Okay, so other cost-saving considerations. Of course, options do exist for the town to reduce its contribution toward the cost of employee medical or dental coverage. But I wanted you to see the statistics of how many people carry insurance coverage with the town, and it is a pretty significant amount, 99 out of 110, and 101 carry dental coverage. But I've heard, people indicate that, paying a little bit more for a strong health plan is something that I think people may be willing to do. But paying a little bit more for a not-so-good health plan, is kind of a double whammy. And also the town, of course, can always reduce its contribution toward the cost of dependent coverage, which that's what, sometimes employers do contribute more toward the employee coverage versus to the dependent coverage. But one thing with the town that, it's important to note is that a lot of people do carry, over half carry family coverage, either covering 2 or more family, there's 20, and 36 people cover 3 or more family members. Majority in our DPW and EPD departments, and a lot of those are actually families of 4 or 5. So,
Would you say the ones that aren't paying for coverage is because they're under Spouses plan?
Yeah, they have other coverage available to them that is either less expensive, or sometimes if an employer has, if a person has coverage available to them, a spouse, through another employer, some plans say, okay, you can't come on our plan because you have coverage elsewhere. So there's, different plan designs that might limit whether or not we have a family member come on our plan. But family coverage is important to the town, affordable family coverage is important to the town employees. That's one thing I know, and that's one of the things that has helped us in a couple respects. That's the next slide. It is both a recruitment tool, where it attracts talent even though our pay scale might be lower. When they see our health plan, that's a selling point. It's a retention tool. It helps us keep our turnover low. And as hard as it is to fill some positions, that's a critical component. And also it's important to note that plan design changes or increased employee contributions, they do cause more, cause for concern for employees.
I understand.
So it's never an easy process when we have to deal with these things. So now let's go on to these alternate medical plan designs. And the first one is what you've heard referred to as consumer-driven health care, and those are the high deductible plans that employers implement. You might have a high deductible plan where there's a health reimbursement account associated with it. And that's where an employer may say, okay, we're going to have a $3,000 deductible that all your expenses have to, go toward until we reimburse you. However, we're going to give you this little pot of money, a health reimbursement account, and you can pull from that when you have, for your first $500 worth of expenses. And that helps people kind of get off the ground so that they don't have to foot everything themselves and to save up some on their own. And the thing about that is at the end of the year, so if we give a $500 pool of money to each employee that enrolls, or maybe $1,000 for someone with family coverage, if that kitty hasn't been used by the employee, that money goes back to the town. Then there's the health savings account arrangement, and that's where you have a high deductible plan, but there's an HSA account. Now the HSA account is actually employee money. And the beauty about an HSA is that that money sticks with the employee. They can add to it with tax deferred savings, and they can take that with them and use it in future years, even when they're not covered by a high deductible plan. So sometimes people call it a healthcare IRA because people start trying to build up a lot of money in these. And I think you can, what I have in there, you can do, for single coverage, you can actually defer $3,500 a year, and for family coverage, you can defer $7,000 a year. And you can add an extra $1,000, all pre-tax, and you can try to hold on to that so that once you're on Medicare and you don't have income coming in like you used to, you have this pool of money to pull from. Now it's tough, not everyone can afford to, save for that.
I understand.
There are certain groups of people that it is advantageous to. Now sometimes employers do contribute to an HSA on behalf of the employee, even though the employee gets to keep that money. So at the end of the year, if you haven't used your whole $500, that's still the employee's, in their pot of money. And that money doesn't get taxed either for the employee, either when it goes in or when it comes out. And the only time you can contribute to an HSA is when you are covered by a high deductible plan. So, like the plans that we offer now aren't considered high deductible plans, so people cannot contribute to an HSA, save for the future. And for 2019, in order to contribute to a qualified HSA plan, the deductible of the employer health plan has to be at least $1,350, and for family coverage, it has to be at least $2,700. So, which, in looking at deductibles, that's not that high compared to what a lot of employers, like my employer, has in place. And employers do not fund the HRA account, and they may fund part of an HSA account, but they don't have to. My last employer did not put in anything. This employer, gives me $700 for single and $1,700 for family coverage. So, it's all, you can design things the way you want. And some employers have gone to all high deductible plans, but also some are offering them alongside their current plans to, see if there's an interest in that. And people that don't have a lot of claims in a year, that can be a very viable option for them. That's cost less out of their paycheck. And then another alternate medical plan design is what we're talking about, the self-insured medical plans. Self-funded plans are also referred to. So with these plans, the company takes on the risk of paying medical claims themselves versus the insurance company paying the claims. And they have to pay a third-party administrator, which is sometimes an insurance company, to administer the plan, to pay the claims. The company works with the insurance broker to set up a plan design, and then to protect themselves, the company also has to purchase some stop-loss insurances, or reinsurance, they call it as well. And so it would be both a specific stop-loss, and that's where they may say, okay, any claim that's over $25,000, we're going to insure with this insurance company so that anything over that is their responsibility. Or there's an aggregate stop-loss, and that's where they'll say, okay, if our total company claims exceed a certain dollar amount, then it's on the insurance company. So you have to purchase these stop-loss insurances to limit your risk. Some considerations for that, since the town has, for us going to that, now this is something our broker, USI, they could give us a quote for self-insurance. I don't know how quickly it could be for this year, but that's really, to make a change like that, you need some planning time. So that's something that should start probably a year in advance if you want to explore those options. But some considerations are, at this point, since the town has under 100 employee participants in the medical plan, we're at we just got to 99. We do not get total claims experiences from the insurance companies. No insurance companies give us that. So the only data we get is for large claims that are $25,000 or more. So you're kind of in the dark about really how big a risk do we have going into this. Also, as people get near retirement age, a lot of times they decide to take care of things that they need to have done instead of waiting until they're on Medicare. So if someone wants to get some knee replacements, they know it's in their future, they may decide to do it while they're covered by an employer plan versus waiting until it's going to be on their own with Medicare. So that's something that there's possibility of claims in the future. There's a claims run-out period you have to account for with self-insurance. And, claims in a 12-month period, once you hit to, let's say, the end of the fiscal year, there's still claims that are going to be rolling in for, 6 months to a year after that are still part of that plan year. So you have to account for that lag, that run-out period, because let's say you decided to switch back to an insured plan, you're still going to have these old claims coming in that you're responsible for paying under the prior plan year when you were self-insured. So there's a run-out period that you have to account for. You're not going to know your true claims for a particular plan year until probably 6 months to a year down the road. So there's lag time on that, and you need to account for that. I think you might be able to insure for claims run out. I'm not 100% sure on that. And it really, if you do go to self-insurance, it takes several years to collect good claims experience data. You're not going to know from year one. So for someone to say, I can save you 30% in year one, that's probably a good salesman because they have no claims history, they know nothing about our population, and it's going to take a couple years to really see what's in the future for the town.
Can I ask you a question? How does this compare with going with the county self-funded?
I don't know what the county, versus the town doing it individually versus partnering with the county. I don't know what the county has with that. I don't know if they're doing it through a consortium, like the Legit Benetcon.
I don't know.
I don't know either, but this, I know this does not appeal to me personally.
Yeah, there's definitely bigger concerns when it's, small employers. The employer I was with had 2,200 employees, so you have a lot of people to spread the risk over. When you only have 99 participants, you may have one good year, but it doesn't take much to have a bad year. And I'll tell you, the thing that hit us was we had premature twins, and one of them was in the hospital for a year. This is back when I was self-insured. And it's things like that you might not be able to, prepare for.
Yeah.
And when you have self-insured, you still have a set premium that you're allocating, that you expect to be able to cover your claims costs. But you might have a year when that allocation didn't cover it. And where are you gonna come up, with the extra money? Hopefully the stop loss insurance will help with that, but there's some unknowns that, can really hit small employers. And even though you might have a good year, again, remember, at the end of the year, you still have this claims run-out period. You gotta be, you can't say, oh, I got this extra $30,000, $40,000 that we haven't used. Well, you might use it, and you might use it for this year once all the claims come in, and also, you might use it the next year when you get hit by a whopping claim that you didn't know. So, that's another one of the challenges with self-insurance. I know that Legit and Benetcon, they originated out of Pennsylvania, setting up these healthcare consortiums. I think the Legit Benetcon one in for Maryland is out of, they use Cigna as their healthcare network. And I don't know anything about the Cigna. I know that we'll be getting some quotes from them for our insured plan. I know their salespeople are hitting municipal governments hard. I talked to our broker, and she said she had like 3 other municipal clients who has really been aggressively going after them. So they're trying to, I think, build up their network of participating employers in Maryland. And that's one thing, self-insurance and going with a consortium like Legit's, or even with the county, it takes some extensive research to make sure that there's nothing hidden that we didn't account for if you decide to make a change like that.
Well, I think this process that we're doing is that with it being such a tight budget that we have, I think it's important for us as the board to make sure that we're looking at every avenue that we can to make sure that we're doing the right things, the balance, as you know. And I actually feel quite a bit better. Steve Repo had sent us all an email with the amounts of insurance that I'm going to say per person costs that the town is contributing to, and I agree 100%. It's absolutely, it's a recruiting tool. I didn't think that the numbers, when I look through my budget at sometimes, and I look at each department, on occasion, I'd see numbers like $30,000, $40,000, and I was a little, once again, I'm a little confused when it comes to this. And I think that the email coming back to us, I think the town is contributing about $16,000 per employee toward health care. And that's probably not all that unrealistic in the workforce today. I don't know. I don't pay for mine, so this is where I'm on my waste plan. So I'm on my waste plan. So I don't know if that's good, bad, or indifferent, but I think in the corporate world, I think that that's probably not all that crazy of a number.
Yeah, for employee coverage, we're in the ballpark of what a lot of average employers are doing. For the dependent coverage, we're probably doing a little better. But as I said, we have a lot of dependents, and one spouse in the household that's working, so there's only one option for health insurance and one paycheck, and having an affordable family plan really does help, with the town Elkton family, that works for the town. So
the one thing that I would consider maybe taking a look at if the employees want to go down this road or not, but take a look at that health savings account, whether it's town or employee. If if we were able to elevate the deductible high enough and the town was to contribute in, maybe it's a win for both parties. You know, I don't know what that matrix is, but that might be something we could take a look at also.
Now, you're talking about for being the only plan that's offered?
Well, currently, I think currently we have, based on the plans that we have today, with the health savings account basically takes away the employee from paying the deductible? Or is their deductible?
Part, the health savings account helps to fund part of the deductible. Yeah, deductibles are always gonna be higher generally than what the town is gonna contribute, but it helps fund part of the deductible. And it might be a good, you know, pretty significant part of what the person's annual expenses are. Not everyone, you know, ever would meet their deductible. So people that only go to the doctors a couple times a year, they have very minimal costs. And we do have some of those kinds of employees, and we have the employees that aren't, so.
You mentioned you have a plan like that for your employees.
Yes, I do. Yeah, it's a very small, I have a very small employer. We're about 25 employees. And I have a $5,200 deductible.
I was gonna say, would you mind sharing with us what your deductible is? And I wasn't gonna really pressure you, but
Yeah.
yours is 52.
5,200. It was an adjustment to get used to that, but
Yeah.
the reason they call it, high deductible plans are called consumer-driven health plan is because you really start planning how you use your expenses. So at the point you end up satisfying, you know, having a significant thing in 1 year, you're like, all right, I've satisfied this much of the deductible, I'm gonna take care of this, this, and this while I'm at it.
And
The hard part is building up a balance so that you have that pool of money to pull from so that you can meet your 52, or whatever your deductible is. And that's,
Unfortunately, that has been the trend. I mean, I feel better now because mine's $2,500 that I have to put out of pocket, and I have no plan, no HRA or HAS. So when I look at these numbers, I know, our employees do have excellent health coverage, excellent. I mean, I want to come to work for the town.
What do you
And as I said,
pay,
we
Max? What's your pick, what do you
Well,
pay?
my premiums, I'll share it with you, but mine, I'm sure are higher because of my age. But I pay $186 a week for the privilege of having that insurance with a $2,500 deductible. So I would like our employees to know what is going on out there outside of our world of insurance, because they have they have the Cadillac of plans, in my opinion.
they have a very, very strong plan.
They do.
Are you, what
And
kind
I
of
wouldn't want to
program do
lose
you
it
want,
either.
Charlie, when they ask? Yours,
Medicare? Which one?
oh, I thought you didn't have Medicare yet.
I want it. I can't wait for it.
I know, that's what you start getting.
I can't wait to get it.
Socialized medicines.
It's
What do you,
I don't like to quote all my information because my wife does all mine. But I'm somewhere between $400 and some every pay period, every 2 weeks. And it shows out maybe at 26 weeks, over $11,000.
Rob, you have to pay for your own health care.
Oh, yeah. You gotta open it.
Yeah, and that's the difficult thing too, when you're
Yeah,
with a
no,
small
we-
employer.
And see, this is why I really don't know, because I've been under my wife's plan for,
And is she with a larger employer?
she's with Acme Markets, yeah.
Okay, so that's a large, you get a group rate, so the younger employees help offset the older employees, you know, the premium rate versus a small employer, it's your average, what age band you're in, and so you know, you have higher rates and it's high deductible.
But, you know, I came from a very large employer, a bank, credit card bank. And I've circled back and talked to some of my friends that are now with, you know, Citibank, Chase. And when I tell them what I have as coverage and what I'm paying, they're like, are you kidding me? They're off the scale. I mean, some of my single friends are paying over $100 a week at these large employers. So,
And that's why we may not have the highest pay scales of our, other local government, but this helps us still be able to get the quality people that we.
Well, if you take it for that amount of dollars, it's increasing, everyone should look at, it's about an $8 an hour pay increase, or toward their pay, which is, I think is important. And I think, I agree 100%, it's hard to get good people, and once you get them, you have to make sure you look at the whole program.
I think, well, I'm paying right now as a group where I work at, if I would get my own individual, it'd be well over $600 every 2 weeks.
Yeah, for family, husband, wife.
Is there any other questions, comments?
So in the current plan that we have, assuming that you have a husband and wife both employed by the same company, what is the trade-off there?
Well, they can either go with each carry single coverage if it's cheaper for that, or the family rate might be, or the employee spouse rate might be cheaper, it just depends, but you have your choice. And that's,
So they wouldn't necessarily have a distinct advantage over that?
well, if each one were to elect single coverage, then they're gonna have their own, individual deductible that they have to meet, versus if they're, go together as a family. It's just that. We only have maybe one of that kind of situation. So is there any problem? Can you look up the boards?
That was a very good presentation.
Kathy, thank you so much, it certainly helped me.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like to hear it over again.
Okay, afterwards.
Thank you, Kathy.
Okay, let's go to the fun part now, the fiscal year 2020 budget. I think everyone, did you get your, okay, you got it over here there, on that, right there you go. Everyone should have the capital requests in front of them as well as the budget highlights. What we're attempting to accomplish here in fiscal 2020. And I'm going to go through this real quickly and where we're at this point. Currently, I'm going to start off with the budget highlights. So currently, the proposed real estate tax rate will remain the same as fiscal year 19. Our business personal property tax will remain the same as it is in fiscal year 19. We're proposing a slight increase in tax collection fee. It's got to go up $1.48 per quarter. So if you stretch that out over a quarter, I think it's about, let me see if I can do the math in my head, about 50 cents per month increase for trash collection fee. It'll be going up to $32.50, and that's just a pass-through of what we get. You'll see that there's not any adjustments. Let me see here. 0 percentages in increases. We have vacant positions that will not be filled for fiscal year 20. The fringe benefits, as we just went through, the projected health insurance increase is 5%. We're going to continue to fund the Main Street program at $100,000. I'm proposing that the Armory acquisition of $275,000 is to be funded by grant proceeds. So you're going to see in the budget that we're going to do our best to get a grant to pay for the Armory. If we can't find a grant to pay for the Armory, I'm not sure what direction to go from that point on. But it's in here as a grant proceeds. The Neighborhood Community Center, we are going to be budgeting $3.1 million. $500,000 is going to be committed from the fund balance. $400,000 thousand will be from the grant. I think we used 400,000 in this current fiscal year.
That's right, we'll be using 400,000.
Okay, and then we're gonna take a loan from the sewer fund for the remaining, which would be $2.2 million. Now, Steve Repo mentioned to me, and I think it was a thought from Lewis, that the board might want to think about is instead of using that committed fund balance of $500,000 that we committed for this, maybe we could just borrow 2.7 from the sewer fund instead of taking it from fund balance. It's just on paper, but when you get down to the bottom, you'll see why I suggest that, and I think it was actually a good suggestion. New debt service, we're looking at $55,000 from the sewer fund loan. We are looking at general obligation loan if we go with all the capital equipment, which would be $136,249. And as you'll see that to fund this, to fund the budget this year, we're going to have to use 1.331577 of fund balance to fund this, which I will tell you will wipe us out of fund balance for fiscal year 20. There will be some, last year we used 1.7 million to fund the budget, and now that 1.7, I feel that we're going to have conservatively maybe half of it, maybe a little greater that we didn't use, so there's still money available after this, but not much. I know I talked around a little bit of circle, but we still got money, but it's not going to show on paper until we do the audit. When you go to the capital request, the finance department has requested $75,000 in financial software. I think is very important for us to have to be compliant and make sure that we're up and running. Probably the most important to get those bills out, so we want to make sure that we're correct on that. And half of that comes from the water fund and half will come from the sewer fund. You'll see the municipal or the neighborhood community center will be budgeted. We also had a new phone system, acquisition of the armory. I put a $50,000 grant in the Elk Landing Stone House. That would be to finish the Elk Landing Stone House down there. That would be along with a $100,000 grant that they received for doors and windows, and this would be the remainder. I would suggest that maybe we take out the $5,000, which was the audio visual for the mayor and commissioner's room, unless the board feels that we should have that.
I think you can get by with it.
I think we can too. So we're going to take that $5,000 out. When it comes to the police department, there's a request for defibrillators, the records management software, the interview room equipment, citation program, the intercom system, the desktops, laptops, the Sonic software, the off-site backup, which totaled $87,448. We'll continue to fund that. The Public Works Department had requested a mini excavator and a trailer to haul it, and an F-350 truck. The F-350 truck, I want to see exactly where that was going at. I think we do have a lot of equipment there. I believe it might have been for the welding division, but we want to take a look at that, so that might be something we could take out. The water fund, you'll see that we need to get some standby generators. We're going to be doing the new water line on Maryland 279 this year. The screen system, the flow measuring system, the water treatment plant rehab. So the total water fund request is over $804,000 in improvements that we're going to need to do out of our water fund. On the sewer fund, we're going to acquire the F-350 truck. We're going to have the standby generator replacements at Patriots Glen, there on Cal Lane, Independence Drive, Buttonwoods Road, Jesse Boyd Court, Gina Marie Lane. So the total sewer fund capital request is $366,970. So, yeah,
Could be the same.
no, it would be a different one. It would be a different one. So that's where we're at with the budget. It's a very, very tight budget. I think that when you look through the revenue and you look through the expenditures, we have attempted to cut. I haven't had a discussion with Louis George that as we lose people, I don't think that we should be hiring in fiscal year 20. I think that if we took a 3-year plan at this and take a look at this, I believe that we can get back to where we're until we get some huge growth in the assessment value of the town. Currently, our assessed value of the town of Elkton, as I mentioned the other evening, is about $1.2 billion, and really that assessable base hasn't changed. In fact, it probably went down a little bit in 2007, 2008, 2009, but our, I'm going to say our workload, of course it increases every day. I don't want to get anyone mad at me, but it's, when you look at it the way it was probably in 2004, 2005, 2006, we still have the same amount of personnel and effort, and it was busier, I think, at that point than it has been over the last X amount of years. That's kind of my evaluation of it. So I think that we could, as people leave the town of Elkton, I think that we could try to fill in, fit in, cross-train, whatever we have to do to make this work until our assessable base goes up. I know it's going to be a little, it's different, of course, for the policing side of things. We don't want to do anything to jeopardize the public safety of the town of Elkton. So that's one area that we're going to probably be away, not worry about. We've got to make sure that we have personnel there to protect and serve the community of the town of Elkton. I guess the board, if they've taken a look at the numbers, and I think one area, well, there's a couple areas that kind of stand out to me. One area, and I got glad Mary's in here today from the Parks and Rec side of things. I think if we all look at we probably have one of the finest, we have some of the finest programs of anyone in the county to be offering for Parks and Rec programs. The problem is if we look at the numbers, we lose, well, that's probably the wrong word to use. Our revenue is about $140,000 and our expenses are close to $500,000. So there's about a deficit there of several $100,000 in our Parks and Rec division. And that's because we help our community the best we can. I know that we scholarship programs for people that can't afford to participate, but I think that number is growing, in my opinion, the wrong way. So we as a board have to give some direction to whether we feel that we continue with these programs or we have to basically triple the cost of the programs that we're currently doing to make it work to where we become somewhat revenue neutral. My concern is when we move into our new neighborhood community center, we know, I think everyone sitting up here, and I think the residents of the town of Elkton realize that deficit's even going to get greater. We're going to have to bring on more people, and it's the cost of the building is going to make it even greater. And we're going to be held accountable for a pretty huge tax burden deficit here in the near future if we don't take the actions. The sooner the better. I really don't have any suggestions for it. I mean, we could look at it a couple ways. Either we take the, evaluate the programming that we have today and look at it and see if there's any way that we can refine them or restructure them. Or I think maybe we start over again. You know, we're going to have a new community center, and maybe it's time to start the whole program over. I don't know. I'm looking for some guidance here.
Well, we definitely have to get a handle on where we're losing money. And whether it's in a report of some kind that shows us, here's this program, if this is what it brings in, this is what it costs, and down the line, which I would be interested in, because we do have to get a handle on it. So I don't know if we want to start there or not, so that we can fine tune it, or at least understand it. And what about the Parks and Rec Board? Is this something that they could possibly address, or do we, they really shouldn't get involved with the finance part of that?
No, but I think that'd be a good start. I think Mary had provided to us one time before what was bringing in from each program. Lou, if we could get that, maybe a copy, or Mary get that copy to the board so we can look at that.
And how many scholarships with each program is being issued? Just so we have an understanding.
Yeah, because that's money that you're giving away.
Yeah.
I think we really have to take a look at it. It's not an easy thing to do. I think we help a lot of people out there, but it's gonna, if we don't take some action, we're allowing it to get to a greater number.
Right. Is there currently a limit on how many can be issued? What is it, a matter of hitting certain criteria that qualifies them?
Just a request for it.
Are you kidding me?
They either pay us something or they don't do it at all. If we don't offer them some assistance, they will not participate.
Okay.
I would say one of the things that I see as a downfall for us is there's many places that have programs, but they have things to offset the program with activities, like if you had a volleyball event that would be a team entering into a week playoff or something, then that revenue would go into the fund and offset some of the costs. See, we don't have that opportunity. So, I mean, on behalf of American and her staff, they don't have anything to actually give back other than just to give the program. They can't give a program and then make up something else because we never had no place to make it up for. In other words, a soccer tournament.
Right.
After the end of the soccer league, maybe someone came in with $100 as a cost to enter into it. Maybe 30 teams in there, where you make your increase on your budget. But that's something we have to look down the road. That's all I can say as far as. And I know everything to me geared around basketball is not, but sports in general. I'd see, hopefully in the future, there's going to be a lot of different companies wanting to use the building after so many hours to be a part of the use of the building, and will pay because they have a place to go. We didn't have that option before. That's just my input on it.
Well, I look at the restructuring. I guess Gene mentioned, a couple of things that were on my mind. First of all, I think we need to go back and find out exactly what has been a sore spot for the program, looking at the budget and what have you. Secondly, there should be a list prioritized as to what has really been good for the program. Thirdly, there's a great opportunity with a board for her to actually find out what are the needs and interests of the community, which relates to what she's doing right now. And fourth, there's a lot of things she offered. I know Earl just talked about soccer, But with the Board of Education, with Parks and Rec and all these, there may be some things she doesn't even have to challenge. You know, let somebody else do that. I know it's good for the town of Elkton, but you gotta put yourself in a position where you're not gonna be a person who's gonna be having, you know, the other groups run over your program. There's a whole lot that goes into it.
And I have to say, one of our challenges has been when we use Meadow Park. We don't know if it's gonna rain or not rain, so there's been times, if you wanna do, try to generate revenue, with adult activities, it's been a challenge, for that. But I think maybe we need to take a look at, maybe some of the folks that also can pay to play. I think it's great that we help our community, but it's really, right now is when it's really taxing when it comes down to these times every year. It's a challenge for all of us.
Right.
And the scholarship piece, I mean, she needs to look at that if she can, but I know with myself and Earl, we serve on the YMCA board, and they also offer scholarships, but maybe with more money to offer that. But certainly, they try to not turn kids away from what they're doing, but, you know, maybe that needs to be looked at too, to a certain point, to a certain amount of money you may have available for kids. to
Well, if you
participate.
have, for instance, if you have a class for X, and you have 20 kids in there, and 18 are on scholarship, why are we doing it?
Right.
That doesn't make sense to me.
You have to keep in mind that the town applied for and accepted community development block grant money that applies to low-mod income
Okay.
for the facility, so we can't jeopardize that funding by charging people in the low-mod income category money to participate in that program.
So you're talking about moving forward.
I'm talking about when you build this facility.
Right.
Because we
Okay.
accepted that money from the community development block grant program, you have to abide by their rules and regulations in terms of how it's used.
Well, we'll
So
need to know what
it
that
can't be a
is.
for-profit organization and use grant money from that program.
Okay.
So you gotta be awful careful about how you utilize that facility.
Well, that's a good point, but now we'll also know which programs will help us qualify for that by seeing what we currently have. It's just,
Yeah, if they're low-mod income, because we're in that census tract, you have to provide services to that category of people. Which is a rather large area.
all right.
It was not odd, but it was kind of shocking to some parents when they took some kids to Pennsylvania just last week for an AAU program, a basketball program. I think it was 17 youth kids. I'm just bringing this to the table. And there was a facility that had 6 courts. So 6 courts had a total of 12 teams playing on those 6 courts. You had to pay $8 to get in to see that child play in this tournament. And the parents were shocked, but they had to pay it because they wanted to see the child. They had this run all day long for Friday and Saturday, and the amount of money that they generated just through the AAU program in those 2 days would probably offset this whole program. But I'm just using that as a.
Yeah, but I don't think we can charge you
No,
at that facility.
No charge for it.
Unless we want to give $800,000 back.
No,
Well, is it
no, you
100%?
can't hold tournaments.
Sorry?
You can't hold tournaments to generate any kind of revenue.
I think you can do that if it's not under the name of the town of Elkton. Let's say Robbie wanted to have a tournament and the town of Elkton granted him permission, then he could charge as well as, you know.
I'm asking that question, I mean, you can tell me that facility can't be used to
I'm not telling you what it can't be used for, I'm going to tell you what it was designed to be for. Our grant application was to target low-mod income use of that building. That's the basis under which we were given that grant. So you can't turn it around and say, okay, we're going to turn this to some type of profit generator. You just can't.
Well, could you at least generate it to
Some
pay
marginal
for
amount
itself?
of money you may be able to charge for certain things, I don't know. I'm not an expert in that field. All I know is that our whole intent there was to provide a facility for people who really couldn't afford to join the YMCA,
Right.
for example.
But there's a difference between breaking even and making a profit.
I don't know what that means in terms of how
Yeah.
the
Well,
CDBG program would look at it.
But
can you enlighten us?
I'll check it out.
that's the same thing I was going to
That
ask
uses
too.
the building.
Okay.
I think, Commissioner Gibbons may be correct. If someone's asking to use it for a certain event, then they could charge, but generally speaking, day to day, it's open to the folks in the census tract in this area.
Yeah, I think that's how it would work.
But if you did yourself conduct this and charge for it, then you wouldn't be able to give any of that money to the town, correct?
I think there'd have to be a fee to use the facility. A fee to use the facility.
Without a conflict
Yeah,
with the grant?
yeah, I think that, but, you know, once again, I'm gonna defer to Gene to
I'll
ask that.
check with that, exactly what the details are.
Thank you.
Well, let's just assume now, we got the upstairs room, Earl rents it with Robbie, for example. And you get in the building basically for free, but could they charge kids $1 to come in
You can
today?
charge anybody here,
Pardon?
this building, this facility upstairs, we have 5,000 square feet up there. That could be rented for any amount of money you want to rent it for, because this is not grant funded, this building wasn't. This is taxpayer fund.
But
So
it's
you
still
have a lot
going
of
back to
attitude
the town
there.
of Elkton juice is what they're saying for us. I think he's missing
You mean,
something.
Well, I think I'm gonna just guess here, but we took $800,000 from the federal government for low,
A project that'll benefit low-money income.
that will then-
so that facility has to be used for
51% of the
probably 51% of the
benefit
action.
goes to low-money income.
Oh, well, then you're answering, sort of answering the question.
It has to be 51% more.
I was gonna say, otherwise you couldn't have the dance program there. Because everybody pays for that, right?
There's a
I can see that.
scholarship for that.
Okay, well,
So
what-
maybe I led us down the wrong path on this, I bring this up, but I'm looking at all the other different, and I hear what you're saying, Louis, which is something I wasn't even thinking about as far as grant money. But, when we go to Hartford and Baltimore and Philly, they're using their community center, regardless of whether they got grant money or whatever. I'm trying to figure out how come we can't use it in the same aspect as they did. I mean, as far as,
I don't know anything about what they.
but, well, okay,
I think
we have to talk about that, because I'm really,
I feel pretty sure that we can, but we can't do it where it's a full-time. That facility has to be used, residents of the community have to be able to go in there and use that facility where there's no charge to
I'll
them.
go rent the schools out and have our own program to do anything. I mean, it
Any-
don't make sense.
Is there any other questions about the budget? Because this is what, at this point, this is what I'm going to have them kind of finalize things with, and you'll have your complete copy on what date? End of the month?
But, yeah, Friday the 10th,
Friday the 10th.
end of the week.
That's pretty quick. All right, this meeting's adjourned.